to the Transform series at Crossroads. And we've been hearing great reports about the stimulating discussions you've been having in your groups. But as important, maybe even more important, is that you're getting to know each other better and that your relationships are expanding and growing. Well, in this session, we're going to look at what God has to say about our financial health. And I know that the mere mention of the topic of money can raise our blood pressure. It can cause us to stare at the floor or maybe even get a knot in our stomach. Not because money's bad or evil, but it's an area where so many people struggle, and they even find it hard to talk about. And we've tried to set a tone throughout the whole Transform series where we can talk openly and honestly about a whole variety of topics. And if we can grow into a healthy place financially, our lives will be a lot better, wouldn't you agree? There are literally hundreds of verses in the Bible about money. Did you know that Jesus spoke more about money than he did about either heaven or hell? In fact, half of all his parables mention money, and a good third of his parables deal with investments. So today we're going to look at 7 biblical habits for financial health. Here's a modern proverb I read from Henry Cloud. Good habits are hard to develop and easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to develop and hard to live with. Hard, then easy, or easy, then hard. So I think this is a great approach when it comes to our money. So let's do the hard work first. So the first habit for financial health is this. I must trust God as my source and supplier. You know, if you look at your outline in your Transform book on pages 158 to 160, you'll see that each of these 7 habits starts with an I must. But the truth is, we don't really have to do these things. It's up to us to decide to develop these habits. So rather than say, I must do these things, I want you to go through on all 7 of those habits and scratch out the word must and put in the word will. I will do these things. Not because I must, but because I am actually learning to want to. Because when our want to aligns with how God has actually designed us to live, that's where the freedom and deep joy comes. So here's number 1. I will trust God as my source and supplier. What does this mean? Well, it means that your source of income is not your job. The source of your income actually is God. He may use a job, but that's just his tool. It's just a channel for his provision. So when I turn on the faucet at my home, I know that the faucet isn't the source of the water. The faucet's just the channel. The actual source of the water is the rain and snow that God sends on the earth. So God is the supplier of the water. In the same way, your job is not your financial supplier. It's the channel. And if one faucet gets turned off, God can turn on another one because he is your supplier. The Bible says everything comes from God and exists by his power and is intended for his glory. So God owns it all, but God loans it to you while you're here on earth. You say, but I work hard. I earn my money. Well, who do you think gave you the ability to work in the first place? The Bible goes on to say this, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who what? Who gives you the ability to produce wealth. So circle the phrase produce wealth. God wants you to be a wealth creator, and he's the one who gives you the ability to create it. So God is your source and supply. It all comes from him. So practically speaking, whenever, let's say you get your next paycheck or a payment for work you've done, or even look at your bank statement and you see a deposit, we can simply say to God right then, thank you. Thank you for being the supplier and the source of this income. And we can make that a habit every time that happens. So here's habit number 2. I will keep good records. You got to write stuff down and keep track of your finances. Good records give us a clear picture of our financial reality, whatever it is. You might be a lot better off than you even know. So you say, hey, Dennis, I hate to do that. I don't have time to do that. Well, let me ask you this. Do you have time to worry about your money? In fact, if you keep better track of your money by writing everything down, you'd have a whole lot less stress to worry about. The Bible says riches can disappear fast. Everybody agree with that part? Yeah. So watch your business interests closely. Know the state of your flocks and herds. I mean, you're going, I don't have any flocks and herds. But when the Bible was written, their wealth was all tied up in their livestock. So you could easily tell who was rich in those days. If you had a lot of cattle, a lot of sheep, a lot of goats, you were wealthy. If you had no animals, you were poor. There weren't banks. There were no stocks and bonds. So when God says know your flocks, he's saying to watch your business interests. So today, instead of saying know your flocks, God would say know your stocks. In other words, you need to know where your money is going and how it's growing. And then he says riches can disappear fast. Some people say money talks. That's not true. It just slips away real quietly. So anytime you say, I don't know where my money goes, it means you're probably already in trouble. So you need to keep good records. My wife and I, Barbara, have a great arrangement when it comes to record keeping. I get to spend all the money, and then I give her all the receipts, and she gets to keep track of where I spent all the money. Well, it's not quite like that, but I have to admit, she does the heavy lifting on this side of it. She has used this very simple ledger book like this for 30 plus years that we've been married, and it really works for us. So if you've never kept good records, here's two options. First of all, here's the low-tech approach. Get something like this. Get a pencil. Write everything down. You could even use a cheap spiral notebook just to begin to write down, where is my money going? How am I spending my money? That's option number one. Keep good records. Low-tech approach. Here's option number two. High-tech approach. Go to the daveramsey.com website. Click on Tools, and you'll find everything you need there. In fact, there's a tool there called Every Dollar, which includes a 10-minute budget and an app for keeping records. And it's free. So keeping good records is a step towards financial health. You know what you earn, you know what you owe, you know what you own, and you know what you spend. That's habit number two. Here's number three. If I want God's blessing on my finances, I will give the first 10% back to God. And this is an approach that God always seems to honor. If I want God's best in my marriage, I honor him in my marriage. If you want God's best in your work, we'll honor him with and through your work. So it would only stand to reason that if we want God's best in our finances, we need to honor him first with our finances. And that's what tithing is all about. The word tithe means 10%. So tithing is giving 10% back to God. Now, why did God pick 10%? I mean, nobody really knows. I think it's because 10% is a large enough amount that we actually have to prioritize and watch the rest of our spending. We have to be better planners. And plus, the 10% is not such a large amount that we just throw up our hands in defeat and say, I could never do that. After all, it's all his anyway. So it's not that you're giving God 10% of what's yours. The truth is, he's letting you keep 90% of what belongs to him. You see, God doesn't need your money. He wants what it represents, your life, your heart. In fact, the most sensitive nerve in the human body goes from the heart to the wallet. The Bible says the purpose of tithing is to teach you always to put God first in your lives. And so that's what it's there for. Tithing does three things. Tithing is a statement of gratitude, number one. When you tithe, you're saying, God, I wouldn't have anything if it weren't for you. Number two, tithing is a statement of priority. It's saying, God, you're first in my life, so I give you the first part of my money every time I have some income. And number three, tithing is a statement of faith. You're saying, God, I believe you'll keep your promises that if I honor you, you'll take care of me. So it's gratitude, it's priority, and it's faith. Proverbs 3:9-10 says, honor the Lord by giving him the leftovers of all your income. No, that's not what it says. It says by giving him the first part of your income. That means right off the top, and he will fill your barns to overflowing. Proverbs 3:9-10. In fact, Malachi 3:10 says, God says this, bring to the storehouse, that's the church, the storehouse is where you worship, a full tenth of what you earn. And then he says this, test me in this. I will open the windows of heaven for you and pour out all the blessings you need. This is the only place in the Bible where God says, put me to the test. It's like he's saying, go ahead. I dare you. See if you can outgive me. And I can tell you from personal experience, you can never outgive God. And if tithing currently isn't a habit, maybe a good place to start with would be 2% or 4 or 6%. But do it on a regular basis. And the idea is to get started. Take this step. Take this transformational step to honor God regularly with your money. Here's number 4. And this habit is just as important as tithing. I will save and invest for the future. The Bible calls savings God's IQ test. It really tells how smart you are. Proverbs 21:20 says, wise people save for the future, but foolish people spend whatever they get. Did you know that the average person in Japan saves about 25% of their income? And the average European saves 10%? Last year, the average American saved about 2.6%. And according to an article in the U.S. News & World Report just this past March, 43% of people in the United States wouldn't be able to go more than a month without a paycheck. And almost 1 in 5 Americans, 19%, couldn't miss a single payday without needing to borrow money or sell assets. I mean, no wonder people are worried about their finances. They're not saving every day, let alone for retirement. So here's a question that will help you increase your saving ability. Ask yourself, whenever you're about to make a purchase, do I really need this? Or could I put this money in savings? Because when you save, your money starts working for you. The problem is with most people is that they're working for their money. But every time you save, every time you invest, you're getting your money to work for you. And the Bible says that saving and investing is a mark of wisdom. Some people say, well, I can't save very much. Well, then save a little, but do it consistently and it'll grow. Proverbs 13:11 says, money that comes easily disappears quickly, but money that is gathered little by little will grow. So circle that little by little. It says money saved little by little will grow. You see, it's not how much you save. It's the consistency that matters. Doing it with every single paycheck. So save. Now, what about investing? Proverbs 24:27 says, develop your business first before building your house. Wow. I mean, that means when you get some extra income or a promotion or a big raise, don't spend it on luxuries. Instead, reinvest it in things that will grow your wealth. Keep your standard of living the same, but put the money into your business or into some kind of investment so that it's growing and working for you. God says that's wise. And it's one of the reasons why Barbara and I have always bought good used cars. They get us the same place any other new car would. In fact, we haven't had a car payment in, well, actually, we've never had a car payment. And we've always saved up for cars. And what are we doing with all that money that we would have spent paying interest on a car loan? Well, we're not spending it. We're putting it into a savings and investing. And we're making our money work for us. When you consider this, the average new car loan is about $471 a month for 5 years. If you invested the same amount at a modest return rate of, say, 4%, at the end of 5 years, guess how much money you'd have? $31,837. And if you did it for 10 years, you'd have $70,000. So saving and investing, pretty important. That's habit number 4. And here's the 5th financial habit that I need. And by the way, these are in order. And here it is. I will set up a repayment plan to get myself out of debt. God wants you to be debt-free so he can tell you what to do with your life. Some of you, if God told you to do something, if he had a great opportunity for you, you couldn't do it because you're in such deep financial debt. So Proverbs 3:27 says, don't withhold repayment of your debts. It goes on in Romans 13:8 to say, let no debt remain outstanding. What does an outstanding debt mean? It means that you're only paying the minimum. You're only paying the minimum on your credit card. And then you're letting the debt remain outstanding. So instead of your money working for you, you're working for your money. Remember, I said these things are in order. So keep good records. Give the first 10% back to God. Save and invest for the future. Set up a repayment plan. And then you're going to say, oh, wait a minute. Are you telling me to tithe and to save before I pay my debts? Actually, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Why? Because you need God's help getting out of debt. Tithing is an act of faith. Not paying your tithe is either fear or selfishness. Somebody asked John D. Rockefeller, who was the wealthiest man in his day, how'd you get so wealthy? He called it the 10-10-80 plan. He said that if you tithe 10%, take the second percent, pay yourself as savings, then live on the 80%. And you're thinking, I could never live on 80%. Well, then you're living way beyond your means. You can live on just about anything if you really want to. So many people live beyond their means. So let me summarize. Pay God first, pay yourself second, then set up a repayment plan for your debts. God will help you with those things. But if you wait till you're out of debt, you're never going to start saving and you're never going to start giving. Your yearnings will always exceed your earnings. So you need to set up a repayment plan. Here's number 6. If I want to be financially healthy, then I must put this habit into place. I will budget my spending. A budget is a way for you to tell your money where you want it to go rather than wondering where it went. A budget lets you control your money instead of your money controlling you. The Bible says this, plan carefully. It's talking about a budget, and you will have plenty. If you act too quickly, you'll never have enough. Circle the phrase, act too quickly. What does that mean? It's what advertisers call impulse buying. You ever gone into a store and bought something you didn't plan on buying? Yeah. You looked at it and thought, how did I ever live without that? So you buy stuff not based on reason, not based on rationality. You buy it purely on emotion. That's called impulse buying. And it can add up to a lot of money. Marketers know that there's one word that will get you to act too quickly. It's the word what? Sale. But honey, it's on sale. Did we need it? No. Can we afford it? No. But it was on sale. That's impulse buying. And if you act too quickly, you'll never have enough. So what's the antidote to impulse buying? How do you spell relief? B-U-D-G-E-T. You've got to nip it in the budget. Proverbs 21:20 says, stupid people spend their money what? As fast as they get it. Ooh, ouch. It's probably enough insight about our finances already. So if you'll just put that verse on your refrigerator. Stupid people spend their money as fast as they get it. God says, don't do that. Don't do that. Budget your spending. Okay, and there's one more habit. I think this is the best one. I will enjoy what I have. I can actually learn to be content and grateful and enjoy whatever I have, however much or however little I have. The Bible says in 1 Timothy, godliness with contentment is great gain. God wants me and you to enjoy what he's given us. We can be so busy trying to get more that we don't even have time to enjoy what we have. People buy beautiful houses and then they're never home because they have to work 2 or 3 jobs to pay for them. Or you're so busy buying stuff for their kids that they never have time for their kids. Ecclesiastes 6:9 says, it's better to be satisfied with what you have than to be always wanting something else. And until you learn that truth, you're never going to start saving because you're addicted to upgrades. That new phone, that new car, that new coat, those new shoes. It's better to be satisfied with what you do have than to always be wanting something else. We don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Don't worry about the Joneses. They just filed for bankruptcy. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. And then we don't have time to enjoy what we have because we're always wanting more. So it's kind of a summary verse. Keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. In other words, enjoy what you have instead of grumbling about what you don't. And we have no idea how God wants to bless us if we'll just do it his way. Jesus said, don't worry. Your heavenly Father already knows perfectly well what you need, and he will give it to you. That's the promise. Now here's the premise. If you give him first place in your life and live as he wants you to. But you've got to decide, am I going to trust God or myself with my finances? Am I going to do it my way or am I going to do it God's way? All 7 of these habits, financial habits, work together. They complement each other. And I know some people who tithe, but they're not enjoying what they have. I know some people who are trying to repay their debts, but they're not saving. I know this is a lot, all these 7 things. But take some very specific baby steps today and then keep at it. Trust God as your source. Keep good records. Give the first 10th back to God. Save and invest for the future. Get out of debt. Write a budget. And what? Then enjoy what you have. That's God's plan for our financial health. Let's pray. Lord, thank you that you want to bless our health. You want to bless our families. You want to bless our jobs and our finances. These are not areas that you're uninterested in. And I pray for all who are watching that are in debt, who are worried about their finances. Bring them a sense of peace about that. Help them to develop a plan. I pray for those who are without work right now. Lord, give them work. Meet their needs. Bring peace to their hearts. And I pray that many today would say, I'm going to take that step of faith. I'm going to stop pretending. I'm going to follow God's financial plan. And I pray that everybody who does that will experience a deep sense of joy as they follow your ways. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. One of the best resources we have at Crossroads for helping people get their financial world in better shape is called Financial Peace University. It's a 9-week class that teaches you a strategy, a tried and true strategy that will really help you get out of debt, learn to save, learn to give. All of that stuff happens in that class. We offer it a couple of times a year. You can check our website for the next class. Now, enjoy your life group discussions.